Knowing your sun sign is one thing, but knowing what it actually means, how it fits into the larger system of astrology, and where its characteristics come from is something else entirely. My name is Geoffrey Ballinger, and I'm a student of traditional astrology. Today with Satya, we're going to talk about the 12 signs of the Zodiac. We'll go through each sign and discover where its significations come from, and how we can use that information to deepen our practice of traditional astrology. Let's get started. What are the signs of the Zodiac exactly? They're related to the constellations intersected by the ecliptic, which is the path the sun takes through the sky throughout the course of the year. Each constellation, however, is of varying sizes. Aries, for example, is relatively small compared to sprawling Scorpio. The ancient Mesopotamians made this easy for us, however. They divided the night sky into 30-degree arcs, 12 to be exact, to ensure that each constellation ruled an equal portion of the sky. This system was originally defined to help the ancient Mesopotamians record planetary placements. They would look up at the skies and say, "Oh, Jupiter is in Taurus tonight," and they would record this data. This data would not only help them produce omen texts for their king, which would allow them to say, when Jupiter is in Taurus, this will happen, but it also allowed them to calculate the future position of Jupiter or other planets. Today, the signs themselves have taken on a greater meaning, thanks to multiple layers from history. Let's talk about the fundamental characteristics that each sign has. Over the course of the year, the sun passes through each sign, spending about a month in each one. These time periods we call seasons today, for example, Aries season, because they're connected to the seasons, especially in the northern hemisphere. Where astrology was developed, you would see the sun enter Aries at the beginning of spring, and then move through all the way to Pisces as the year progressed. This is why you'll see, as we go through, a lot of seasonal symbolism connected to each sign. The first way that you will see seasonal symbolisms is through the 4 main points of the year. That is, the equinoxes and the solstices. For example, the spring equinox occurs when the sun enters Aries. For many cultures even today, this is the beginning of the new year, not January 1st. Then, at the height of summer, you have the summer solstice, which occurs when the sun moves into the sign of Cancer. That is the longest day of the year. In fall, you have the autumn equinox, when the sun moves into the sign of Libra, where day and night are equal, just like on the spring equinox. And then, in winter, you'll have the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, when the sun moves into the sign of Capricorn. These 4 signs make up the first modality, the cardinal or movable modality. This modality, you might not be surprised to hear, is associated with new beginnings. Since each constellation is associated with the respective beginning of its season, each of these signs is also known for its forward momentum. These are signs that are good at starting things, providing initiative, sometimes stepping into leadership roles, though they each have their own unique approach to this energy, as we'll see later. Planets in cardinal signs can have a pioneering quality and an urge to begin new things, though they might not always have an urge to finish those new things. Then, as the wheel of the year turns, each season reaches its height, with the fixed or solid signs. For example, the fixed earth sign of Taurus hosts the sun during the height of spring, when everything is bursting forth with life. The fixed fire sign of Leo represents the height of summer, as the sun beats down, showing its full solar glory. The fixed sign of Scorpio hosts the sun as the year begins to darken and the nights grow longer. The fixed sign of Aquarius rules the height of winter. Fixed signs are therefore all about stable energy. they tend to continue what has already been started. This gives planets in fixed signs stability, but it can also make them resistant to change. Stubbornness is a common association with fixed signs, but I think momentum is another important key word. The third modality is the mutable or common signs. After the height of each season, the beginning of the next season begins to creep in, and you end up in a sort of middle ground. For example, at the end of winter, you start to feel the coming of spring, a little bit of warmth in the air, the sound of insects or birds. Or, at the end of summer, you might start to feel the cool of fall creep in, as the nights grow progressively softer and longer. This is when the mutable signs host the sun. The mutable signs are Gemini, an air sign, Virgo, the mutable earth sign, Sagittarius, the mutable fire sign, and Pisces, the mutable water sign. Planets in mutable signs are adaptable. They're open to change and can bend easily to fit new situations. However, they may not always be as dependable as planets in fixed signs. The signs are also divided into masculine and feminine signs. It's a pretty easy distinction. The fire and the air signs, that is, Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo, and Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are considered masculine signs. Water and earth signs, meanwhile, are considered feminine signs, so that includes Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, and Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. This is mostly important for planetary strength. As we mentioned before, masculine planets in masculine signs are likely to be more comfortable, whereas feminine planets in feminine signs are likely to be more comfortable. In general, masculine signs tend to be quick, outwardly focused, action-oriented, and expansive, whereas feminine signs may be more inwardly oriented and contemplative. Now, just like each planet is associated with two qualities, each sign is associated with an element. This gives us the classification of triplicities. There are 4 triplicities. First, the fire signs, that is, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, are considered to be bold, dynamic, enthusiastic, and passionate. They are hot and dry, associating them with the fire element and the choleric temperament. The next triplicity, the earth triplicity, consists of the signs of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. These are practical, pragmatic signs, you might even say down to earth. Earth is cold and dry, giving earth signs a melancholic temperament. The next triplicity, the air signs, consists of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. These are curious, intellectual, and social signs, often oriented more towards ideas than to the physical world. Air has the qualities of hot and moist, giving the air signs a sanguine temperament. The next triplicity, the water triplicity, consists of the signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. These are emotional and intuitive signs. Water is considered to be moist and cold, giving the water signs a phlegmatic temperament. Now, you might notice a beautiful symmetry here. In each of the triplicities, you have a cardinal sign, a fixed sign, and a mutable sign. That just goes to show how well thought out and complete a metaphor traditional astrology can be. There's a few other classifications of the signs that you'll likely stumble across as you read traditional texts. A lot of these are connected to the symbols for each zodiacal sign. For example, the signs of Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius are sometimes considered double-bodied signs because the symbols, two fish, twins, or a centaur, are in some ways dual. It's two things combined into one. Meanwhile, the signs associated with animals, such as Aries and Leo, were considered bestial signs. This was thought to give them a little bit more of an animal nature. That's in contrast to the humane signs, whose symbols were humans, that is, the air signs and Virgo. Traditional astrologers would also associate the directions with each sign, and they would classify signs as barren or prolific, For example, the water signs are considered to be prolific because of the connection between water and fertility. Now let's do a deep dive into each of the signs so you can learn about its particular role in your birth chart. The first sign of the zodiac is Aries the Ram. The sun enters Aries on the first day of spring, the spring equinox, when the day and night are of equal length, and from which point onward, the days will begin to grow longer into the summer. Much of the symbolism of Aries is encompassed in this moment, the first push of new life, the warmth of the new year, that initial momentum at the beginning. Aries is the cardinal fire sign ruled by the planet Mars. The sun is also exalted here. It grows stronger after entering Aries, which means that the sun in Aries is one of the most powerful positions for the diurnal luminary. Venus is in detriment in Aries, and Saturn is in its fall. Traditional astrologers would associate a certain part of the body with each sign of the zodiac. For Aries, that's the head and face. In fact, if you look at the glyph, you'll notice it's an abstract version of the head, face, and horns of the ram. This points to the Aries impulse to dive head first. They may dive head first into new challenges, into conflict, into new situations, into pretty much anything. Impulse drives action, not emotional intuition or deliberation. As a cardinal sign, Aries initiates. It provides the initial spark, not the sustained flame. In fact, the comparison to a match is apt. It's easy to get started, but also fizzles out just as fast. The sun's exaltation here gives the ego a full range of expression. Aries tend to be direct, open about their intentions, and not too self-conscious. They have a lot of forward momentum and are very good at beginning new things or getting other people enthusiastic about projects, as are many fire signs. However, they may have a short attention span and flit from one project to the next, leaving a trail of unfinished work in their wake. As a diurnal domicile of Mars, Aries can express the outward and, in a traditional astrology sense, masculine characteristics of the martial planet. This includes courage, drive, and sometimes temper, though the Aries temper tends to fizzle out as quickly as it's begun. The ram is not made to hold grudges. This is in contrast to the nocturnal domicile of Mars, Scorpio. Scorpios can stay mad forever. Aries, however, are quick to react and even quicker to forget. As a fire sign, Aries has a choleric temperament that is hot and dry. Unsurprisingly, it's associated with the color red. Aries natives tend to be quick thinking and quick moving. They can be competitive or courageous, and they may also be rather impatient. Unfortunately, people with Aries placements, especially if you have malefic planets in Aries, may be prone to accidents, especially to the face and head. The second sign of the zodiac is Taurus the bull. The sun is in Taurus from about the 20th of April to the 20th of May. If Aries is the first spark of spring, that initial push of warmth that begins the season, Taurus is a sustained growth that comes next, that will eventually produce the fruits of the season. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, ruled by Venus. The moon is exalted here, and Mars is in its fall. Taurus is also one of the oldest recognized constellations in the sky, especially in the cultural area surrounding the ancient Mediterranean. From about 4000 to 2000 BCE, it marked the spring equinox. That means that Taurus marked the beginning of the zodiacal year for much of human history, though that has changed because of precession. As a nocturnal domicile of Venus, Taurus represents the more earthly, sensual nature of the planet, in contrast to Libra, which is more associated with the ideals of beauty and aesthetics. Fertility, pleasure, and physical comfort are essential to the sign. Taurian natives tend to have a healthy appreciation of all the pleasures that the senses can offer. This includes food, music, the natural environment, craftsmanship, and art of all kinds. However, the creative sense of Taurus is more materialistic and practical in nature. They're focused more on tangible results than on intellectual creativity. The moon's exaltation in Taurus points to the sign's emotional consistency. Cancer, the domicile of the moon, is reactive and tends to adapt to every shift in the emotional atmosphere, whereas the moon in Taurus has staying power. Here, emotions are stable, durable, and deep. This same tendency can be seen as inflexibility or stubbornness by some, but it points to the fact that Taurus is one of the most grounded and dependable signs in the zodiac. While it can be important to reflect on the strong planets in the sign, sometimes the weak planets in the sign also say a lot about it. Mars is in detriment in Taurus, partially because the explosive, forward-moving, and energetic nature of the martial planet is ill at ease in the comfort-loving sign of Taurus. That said, people with Mars in Taurus can be the quintessential bull in the china shop. Once they get started, they don't know how to stop. Taurus natives tend to be quite comfort-loving and calm. They're hard to get riled up, but once they begin, they can respond with disproportionately destructive force. In the body, Taurus is associated with the neck and throat, which is rather fitting for a sign that so loves food and music and the material comforts. The sign is also associated with barnyard animals, particularly those raised for their yield, not surprisingly, cows and bulls, as well as agriculture in general, and the fertility of the earth. Alright, so now we've made it to the third sign of the zodiac, Gemini, the twins. The symbol tells you everything you need to know. 2 figures, 2 faces, 2 of everything. Gemini season runs roughly from about March 21st to June 20th. Here the days are growing longer, the energy is restless, and everything seems to be in motion. In terms of modality, Gemini is a mutable sign, meaning it's one of the 4 signs that closes out a season. Mutable signs tend to be flexible, adaptable, and open to change. Rather than digging in, they go with the flow. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the quick-witted planet that rules communication, the mind, language, and trade. But it's one of Mercury's 2 domiciles, the other being Virgo. While Virgo sifts and analyzes, Gemini gathers and broadcasts. You can think of Virgo as the editor, and Gemini as a reporter. As a diurnal air sign, Gemini exhibits more extroverted tendencies for Mercury. It's always out in the field, gathering information, talking to everyone, making connections. Physically, the sign of Gemini is connected to the hands and arms. After all, the sign is associated with craft and writing, and these are the organs that we use to gesture, to communicate, to connect with the world. The symbol of the twins is very important here. Some people may consider Geminis to be two-faced or inconsistent, but really, Gemini is about finding the similarities in strangers, finding the twin in the crowd. Next up is Cancer the Crab, the 4th sign of the zodiac. The sun enters the sign of Cancer on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. After this, the days begin to shorten in length, and the nights grow longer. This tension between fullness and decline is an essential part of the symbolism of Cancer. Cancer is a cardinal water sign, and like all cardinal signs, it kicks off a season. However, its initiatory energy is quite different than you might see with Aries or Capricorn. It's also the sole domicile of the moon. This is very important to the symbolism of Cancer. Lunar themes of cycle, memory, emotion, the subconscious, and the maternal all run through Cancer. As a water sign, Cancer is nocturnal and has a phlegmatic temperament. Cancer natives are receptive, sensitive, and easily affected by their environment. The lunar cycle is an important metaphor for the mood swings of a Cancer, predictably variable. In traditional astrology, Cancer is associated with the breast and chest, a fitting part of the human body for a sign so associated with care, nurturing, and motherhood. Interestingly enough, Cancer is the only constellation depicted as moving backward across the ecliptic. This somewhat mirrors the movement of a crab in nature. They move sideways, not forward. Cancer's problem-solving and conflict resolution tendencies can mimic the movement of a crab. Rather than charging forward with their claws, they move sideways. They might backtrack or retreat, and take a more cautious stance to reach their goal. Unfortunately, this means that Mars is in detriment in Cancer. The cold, wet nature of the sign doesn't match well with the hot, dry nature of the planet. Also, the active, forward-facing energy of Mars is misplaced in the cautious, somewhat passive-aggressive sign of Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, which points to the sign's skills in material preservation and nest building. Cancer tends to be prudent with money, focused on material gain for security, and concerned with the safety and security of its own family. Here, the drive to accumulate wealth is not about ego, rather it's about creating a safe space for its family. At its core, the sign of Cancer is all about emotional bonds, memory, and nourishment. Cancer natives tend to have a powerful emotional intuition and long memories. They file away emotional experiences and will return to them often. This can make Cancer somewhat clingy. Letting go of a situation or people, whether they're harmful or beneficial, can be truly a challenge for them. However, it's this same tenacity that makes Cancer such a reliable caretaker. The fifth sign of the zodiac is Leo the Lion, hosting the sun from about July 23rd to August 22nd, the height of the summer in the northern hemisphere. Leo is also the sole domicile of the sun, and solar symbolism is very important to our understanding of this sign. As a fixed fire sign, Leo holds and concentrates the energy of the sun, rather than being quick and impulsive like Aries, or wide-ranging and diffuse like Sagittarius. Leo is about the fixed flame. You can think of a flame in the hearth, or the flame of the sun in the sky. It is also the epitome of the season. This is when the summer sun is at its hottest. The diurnal luminary emits its rays outwards, and the energy of the lion is very similar. Visibility, self-expression, and the drive to make a unique individual contribution are all central to the sign. It may not necessarily be the loudest person in the room, but the Leo still wants to be seen and recognized, and it understands the value of both giving and getting attention. A well-adjusted Leo might be generous, magnanimous, a supportive leader or friend, someone known for bringing out the best in people. A poorly adjusted Leo, however, might be prone to favoritism, vanity, or might have a need for flattery that leaves them open to manipulation. Associated with courage and uprightness, in traditional astrology, Leo is connected to the spine and to the heart. As a fire sign, it's hot and dry, which gives it a choleric nature. Also, as a fixed sign, Leo is better at the other fire signs at seeing things through to completion. They have the energy and passion to get other people involved in a project, and are willing to go the distance to see it finished. However, like all fire signs, they're not too interested in the details. They're more interested in inspiration and leadership than in administration. At its core, Leo is about an individual's contribution to the world, how one person, fully self-realized and fully expressed, can impact the world around them. The sixth sign of the zodiac is Virgo the Maiden. The sun enters this sign on August 22nd and stays there until about September 21st. This is when the summer transitions into autumn, the harvest season in the ancient Mediterranean. And that agricultural context is built into the symbolism of the sign. Virgo is a mutable earth sign. Its ruler is Mercury, and uniquely, Mercury also has its exaltation here, making Virgo the strongest place in the zodiac for the planet. However, the double influence of Mercury might not be as obvious as is stereotypically so with Gemini. This is because it's an earth sign. Remember, earth signs are feminine, so a lot of their significations are more inward-looking rather than extroverted. What that means is that many of the activities of Virgo, the many drives of Virgo, are similar to the drives of the harvest season. They collect, assess, judge, and store. Whereas Geminis are driven to collect information without judgment, Virgo has a more practical bend. They sort through and organize information, figure out what's useful and what's not. This is a sign involved with the practicality of things. Both benefic planets are ill at ease here in Virgo. Jupiter is in detriment. The expansive, generous planet doesn't feel too comfortable in a sign so focused on limitations. Venus is in her fall. Virgo's reserved, practical nature is also at odds with Venus's drive towards pleasure and fun. Venus and Virgo types tend to express their love through helpfulness, acts of service, and yes, occasionally criticism, but hopefully the constructive kind. As an earth sign, Virgo is cold and dry, giving it a melancholic temperament. Virgo rules the intestines, both the large and small, and this ties into Virgo's association with gut instinct, discernment, and processing. Virgos are often also considered hypochondriacs. While the stereotype might hold true in some cases, it ties to a more interesting connection between the sign and medicine. Virgos are genuinely concerned with mental and physical balance and moderation, and that allows them to be interested in well-being, both their own and that of others. Natives with heavy Virgo placements can make good caretakers, especially doctors, nurses, and other kinds of healers, as well as writers and editors, because the same central theme runs through all of these careers: the ability to collect information and discern what is essential. Virgo's reputation for perfectionism comes not from a big ego, but from a strong sense of duty and the desire to do things right. Virgos tend to be harder on themselves than they are on others, no matter how critical they might seem on the outside. They tend to underestimate their own abilities, and as a result are often drawn toward supporting roles rather than leadership roles. They excel in places where they can provide assistance and ensure that everything works correctly. They're interested in the foundation, not the spotlight. The seventh sign of the zodiac is Libra the Scales. The sun enters Libra on the autumn equinox, the day when the length of daylight and the length of night are equal. It's this annual balancing act that is central to the symbolism of the sign of Libra. Libra is a cardinal air sign, ruled by Venus. It also has the distinction of being the only sign of the zodiac with an inanimate object as its symbol. However, it's often considered a humane sign because more often than not, Libra is associated not just with the scales, but with the goddess of justice seen as holding them. Interestingly enough, Saturn is exalted in Libra, which might seem rather odd. Why is the greater malefic so comfortable here in this Venusian sign? This might have to do with the agricultural associations of Saturn. After all, for the Romans, Saturn was an agricultural god, first and foremost, and Libra still overlapped with the agricultural season in the Mediterranean area. However, the sign's drive towards balance, justice, and fairness seems to be a rather humane expression of Saturnian ideals. Here we see the limits imposed by the greater malefic being used for people's benefit. The ruler of Libra, however, is Venus. It's important to note the difference between Venus in an air sign versus in an earth sign like Taurus. This is a more idealistic and aesthetic Venus than a sensually focused Venus. Librans tend to have a natural elegance, an innate sense of proportion and refinement. They're skilled at creating harmonious spaces, whether that's physically or socially. Indeed, untidy, chaotic, or combative spaces can really make them uncomfortable. They're looking for equilibrium here. It might not surprise you that Mars is in detriment here. The Marshall Plan is looking to figure out who the winner is, whereas Libra just wants everyone to get along. In order to understand the cardinal nature of Libra, it can be helpful to compare it to its opposite sign, Aries. The ram is concerned with personal will and individual desire, and that's what drives action. Libra, however, is more focused on consensus. The sun is in its fall in Libra. The self is often subordinated to the will of the other. This means that Libras can often have trouble making decisions. It's not because of a lack of intelligence, it's because they're constantly weighing competing opinions. Libras are very good at seeing the other side. However, that can sometimes lead to inaction. In order to clarify what they actually feel, many Librans often need the input of others. It is this tendency, however, that makes Librans such natural bridge builders and mediators. They're willing to resist taking sides prematurely until they've decided who's in the right. This might make them devil's advocates, but it also might allow them to have a more unbiased perspective of any conflict. Unfortunately, poorly adjusted Libras might avoid confrontation altogether, meaning they might be non-committal or evasive when a situation requires action. Other times, they can forgo what they want entirely in order to keep the peace. They're not willing to rock the boat. In traditional astrology, Libra is associated with the lower back and kidneys. They're also associated with the beauty industry and legal professions, both of which are fields in which weighing, measuring, and presenting things in their best possible arrangement is an essential skill. The eighth sign of the zodiac is Scorpio the Scorpion. During the sun's passage through this sign, the nights grow noticeably longer, and the year moves inexorably toward winter. It's perhaps this passage into depth and darkness that gives the sign such an ominous reputation. The other reason might be that Venus and the Moon, two relatively benefic planets, are not too comfortable here, with Venus in detriment and the Moon in its fall. As a fixed water sign, Scorpio's nature is not flowing or changeable. Rather, it's accumulated. Depth is a key word here. Whereas Cancer might be represented by the flowing tides, Scorpio is more the depths of the ocean, or even a hulking iceberg, with most of its mass hidden under the water. Scorpios can be stubborn and have an admirable focus that sometimes tips towards obsession. The sign is ruled by Mars. However, because it's a nocturnal sign, it has a very different martial nature than the diurnal domicile of Mars, Aries. Whereas the ram charges forward and overwhelms with force, Scorpio waits, watches, and strikes at just the right moment. The Scorpion is unlikely to start a fight, but it won't hesitate to finish one. The moon experiences its fall in Scorpio. This is an important detail in many branches of traditional astrology, where the moon's passage through Scorpio is seen as a time when the truth is often obscured. In Scorpios, emotions run deep. You may not always know how a Scorpio feels until a crisis brings their true feelings up to the surface. They tend to be rather secretive, or at least not self-disclosing. That doesn't mean they're dishonest, however. In fact, Scorpios value the truth, especially from others. And if a Scorpio is lying to you, that can be a sign that they don't value you. In traditional astrology, Scorpio is associated with the groin, the reproductive organs, and the excretory organs. As a water sign, it's considered especially fertile, and its associations in traditional medicine ties it to the cycle of sexuality, elimination, and rebirth. The sun passes through the ninth sign of the zodiac, Sagittarius the Archer, from November 22nd to December 21st. It might seem rather odd to have a fire sign as the year is moving towards winter. The days have grown shorter. We're almost at the longest night of the year. Indeed, in the Masonic legend of the year, Sagittarius is seen as the archer that shoots the final arrow into the heart of the sun, killing it for good before winter sets in. As mentioned before, Sagittarius is seen as a double-bodied sign. It is often associated with the archer, but in some places it's also associated with the centaur. It's a mutable fire sign. Whereas Aries might be the spark of spring, and Leo is the steady burn of midsummer, Sagittarius is more like a wildfire, erratic, and ranging all over the place. As the diurnal domicile of Jupiter, Sagittarius is broad-minded, optimistic, and drawn to any kind of expansion, be it travel, philosophy, or exploration. They tend to be real proponents of learning outside of the classroom. This brings generosity and enthusiasm, especially for new projects, but can lead to excess and overreach. Mercury is in detriment here. That planet craves precision, detail. Sagittarius is not about the detail. It much prefers breadth over depth. As a mutable sign, Sagittarius is comfortable with change. In fact, it can even crave it. Some Sagittariuses see change of any kind as an opportunity, and being fixed in one place or one situation for too long can be genuinely uncomfortable. In the sign of the Archer, Jupiter's optimism and the restlessness of mutable fire combine to make natives who are enthusiastic and direct, often to a fault. Sagittariuses value honesty and don't hesitate to say what they think, even if they haven't considered the consequences. This directness can be refreshing, and their bluntness is not intended to cause harm. Sagittariuses are tolerant and good-humored, as well as quick to forgive. In traditional medicine, Sagittarius is associated with hips and thighs, essential parts of the body for locomotion. They're also connected to large animals, such as dogs and horses, as well as the pursuits of hunting and gambling, which underscores Sagittarius's innate risk-taking nature. In the depths of winter, the sun enters the sign of Capricorn on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. From that point onward, it begins its slow climb out of the depth of winter. It's this slow ascent that is central to the symbolism of Capricorn the goat. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign. It's ruled by Saturn, Mars has its exaltation here, and the moon is in detriment. An interesting feature of the sign is that its symbol is not just the goat, as many people nowadays assume. If you look at some of the older depictions of Capricorn, you'll notice a fish-like tail. This is tied to its mythological significance, which we won't go into here, but you could consider Capricorn to be the sign of the goatfish, not just the goat. As a cardinal sign, Capricorn initiates, but in a way that is heavily influenced by its ruler, Saturn. Saturn governs limits, discipline, time, and structure. Capricorn, as a sign ruling the dead of winter, is all about restraint, about making the best of limited resources. Capricorns tend to be cautious, deliberate, and oriented toward the long term. They are willing to put in the effort, to take the long road to success, and make short-term sacrifices in order to reach the ultimate goal they have in mind. In the depths of winter, nothing can be wasted if survival is a goal. The efficient use of resources is central to Mars's exaltation in the sign of Capricorn. Here we have the drive and energy of the martial planet directed in a disciplined, goal-oriented sign. That means that resources are maximized and no effort is wasted. The martial force is directed toward a clear objective. The Latin astrologer Manilius compared Capricorn to metalworking or mining. Here you have the controlled application of heat and pressure over long periods of time in the depths of the earth to produce something durable and valuable. The moon is in detriment in Capricorn. This sign prioritizes practicality over emotional responsiveness. You may get the sense that they just don't have time for your feelings. However, this difficulty with intimacy or emotional expression is not about a lack of feeling. It's just that their melancholy temperament tends towards duty, seriousness, and reserve. In fact, Capricorn natives may appear old or serious at a young age and seem to age backwards in a sort of odd Benjamin Button way. They tend to become more open and relaxed as they age, as if the long climb has earned them the right to sit back, relax, and enjoy the view. In traditional medicine, Capricorn is associated with the knees, joints, bones, and skin, all of the structural elements that hold the human body together. The 11th sign of the zodiac is Aquarius, the cupbearer. Its season runs from about January 19th to February 18th. One common point of confusion here is that Aquarius is actually a fixed air sign, not a water sign, despite its name and symbol. The reason that its symbol is a cupbearer has mythological origins. We won't go too much into the mythological details here, but suffice it to say that the cupbearer and Aquarius have very similar duties. The cupbearer is tasked with sharing a drink, maybe wine, between different people, whereas the sign of Aquarius is very interested in sharing among the collective, whether that's knowledge, rights, or other values. In traditional astrology, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. This might confuse people who are more familiar with modern astrology, where Aquarius is associated with the radical thinking and rebellion of Uranus. This makes more sense if you consider that Saturn rules two signs, the nocturnal Capricorn and the diurnal Aquarius. That means that the more extroverted nature of the greater malefic are more evident in the air sign of Aquarius. For example, the Saturnian values of fairness, temperance, and universality are very clear in Aquarius. This is a sign where the sun is in detriment. The sun is all about the glory of the individual. Aquarius, however, thanks to its Saturnian nature, is about imposing the collective will over the needs of the individual. Whereas Capricorn places immense importance on tradition, hierarchy, and status, Aquarius is more focused on collective progress and equality. As a humane sign, they're interested in humanity as a whole. They can tolerate a wide variety of people. In fact, they have a detached interest in people in general, and can associate with a very wide variety of people. However, sometimes this interest is only surface level. They greet most people with a mild-mannered politeness. It's in their closest relationships, however, that they're most selective. It's their inner circles that become truly important to them. They prioritize chosen friends over family obligations. For the cupbearer, blood is not thicker than water. It's important to remember that Aquarius is still a fixed sign, and with the influence of Saturn, their opinions and principles mean a lot to them. They're willing to stand by them. There's an innate tension between the social openness and tolerance of the air element and their surprisingly rigid worldview. They can be non-committal on topics that they don't care too much about, but once they have an idea or a perspective on something, it's very difficult to change it. In fact, the gap between their Saturnian ideals and the messy reality of human relationships and behaviors can be a source of genuine frustration for them. In the body, Aquarius rules the ankles and the circulatory system. Even here, it's the cupbearer in charge of distributing sustaining fluids for the good of the whole. The 12th and final sign of the zodiac is Pisces the fish. The sun enters this sign on February 19th and leaves it on March 20th, before the beginning of the new zodiacal year. Pisces is a mutable water sign. Jupiter is in domicile here, and Venus is in its exaltation. Mercury, however, is in detriment and in its fall. The planet of discernment and rationality is not too comfortable in a sign where the boundaries between the self and the other, the boundaries between one idea and the next, begin to dissolve completely. As a mutable sign, Pisces marks the shift from winter into spring, the end of one year and the beginning of the next. It's central to this cycle of rebirth. As a water sign, rather than being the tides associated with Cancer or the deep ocean associated with Scorpio, it could be compared to the open sea, or to water itself. The symbol of Pisces is, of course, the fish. It's notable that this is the only water sign without claws and without a shell. It is adaptable, mutable, open to change, perhaps more open to change than any other mutable sign. Just like water, Pisces will change its nature to fit the container that it is in. As a nocturnal domicile of Jupiter, Pisces exhibits the traits of generosity and a spiritual openness. There are no hard distinctions here between people, ideas, or feelings. This tendency towards universality is why Mercury is in its fall. The idea is not analytical sorting with the fish, but radical acceptance. The good, the bad, the useful, the useless, the pleasant and the unpleasant. Everything is embraced, rather than sorted out. It's this radical openness that allows Venus to have its exaltation in the sign of the fish. Here we see deep devotion, whether that's to a person, a creative pursuit, or a spiritual practice. It's a love that transcends boundaries, that goes beyond the specific. Remember that Pisces is a dual-bodied sign. Its symbol is two fish, fixed by a cord, swimming in opposite directions. This points to the fundamental tension in the sign, as well as its symbolic nature. The fish understands that truth is rarely singular, and that two opposing things can be true at once. This means that Pisces natives are often capable of genuine, deep empathy. However, a poorly adjusted Pisces might exhibit flightiness, the inability to commit or follow through. In the body, Pisces is associated with the feet, bringing to a close the cycle of the zodiac. They're also considered a highly fertile sign, and are immensely creative, with Pisces natives often making their impact in dance and poetry. So that brings to a close our deep dive into the 12 signs of the zodiac and their signification in traditional astrology. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something. I'll give you a tip. As we move forward, it'll be helpful for you to watch our video on the 7 traditional planets. Once you've watched these 2 videos, you can start to combine planet and sign meanings, and this will be the first major step towards reading a birth chart from the traditional perspective. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and join us next time for our video on the 12 houses.